Good morning, folks, and welcome to Good Morning Cannabis. And I have my friend on the line here, George Jage. That's J. Hey, J. Did I say it right? So, George, before we kind of go into the more formal introduction, here's the question that I'm required to ask you. Tell me the craziest thing that has ever happened to you. The craziest thing, George. Not your everyday life, but the craziest thing that's ever happened to you.
For those who have known me for a long time in my life, understand that is a very difficult question for me to answer, just because of the level of competition in there. But having just gone to a chiropractor recently, I did actually herniate my discs, my L5, S1, back in my late 20s, early 30s. I was drinking some tequila, and I had this idea that I had never ridden a mechanical bull at Gillies in Las Vegas. And I was a little bit inebriated, so I rode the mechanical bull. I might not have been the nicest guy that night to the person who was in control of my destiny that controlled the bull. I remember being on the bull and not being on the bull, and then I remember being at the Light nightclub dancing on a table with Paris Hilton for her 21st birthday, and then I remember waking up and not being able to get out of bed. After a considerable amount of physical therapy and chiropractic, I am healthy, well, but it was certainly an epic evening.
Wow. So you got off the bull, I guess, and you've gone on to your life. So,
yes.
George, why don't you just do a brief introduction of who you are? It's going to be sounding a lot more professional from you than me. So, in a real quick time frame.
Well, at some levels, I am a shameless self-promoter because I am in the events business. But for the most part, listen, I'm just a regular guy. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin originally. I've been in the trade show space for about 30 years. Founded and built the Off-Price Show, which is one of the largest apparel shows in the country. Founded, launched the World Tea Expo, World Tea Championships, World Tea News, World Tea Academy, now celebrating its 20th year actually this week in Las Vegas. I did a few other things amidst there, but I also was the president of MJ BizCon, MJ Biz Daily, and built that show up from a few tabletops to 1,000+ booth show at the convention center. Ran Dope Magazine for a short period of time as a CEO, got that sold to High Times. And now we're on to our next adventure, building the end game for the cannabis industry, which is a brand to retail type of trade show, a CPG show, because cannabis is a CPG industry.
Love it. Okay, so for the audience who doesn't understand acronyms, what is CPG?
CPG, which is confusing given the number of cannabinoids that we often refer to. Consumer packaged goods. And so, the cannabis industry, we expect to kind of eventually transform to being very similar to that of alcohol, where you have a lot of brands that have products out in the marketplace, and the brands have the relationships with the consumers, spend a lot on marketing to win those consumers, and deliver a safe and consistent and transparent product and experience.
So MJ Unpacked is when this year? In New York City?
So we'll be doing 2 this year. We'll actually be in New York City. I'm here today, actually, and it's a beautiful sunny day out here. Sorry I can't be in the same room with you today, Todd, but just running around getting stuff done. It's going to be May 18th to 20th. We're going to be at the New York Midtown Hilton. The 18th will open with a reception for our licensed operators. The main show days are the 19th to 20th. We have a phenomenal conference program that's available. You can see on MJ Unpacked. We've got a few other tricks up our sleeve. We're putting together a great benefit event like we did in Las Vegas this last fall to support Last Prisoner Project and help some people get out of jail that are being held hostage for using a plant. And and then the 20th we'll wrap up the show, and then we'll be heading back to Las Vegas September 28th to the 30th at the MGM Grand.
So I will definitely be seeing you at both events. We're sponsoring both events. As you know,
Thank you, by the way.
A question for you: how does this compare to, say, something like MJ BizCon? I mean, what space is this operating in? I know you just told me, but for the folks who don't really understand events, who should really come to this and who should stay away?
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see how little any event in the industry has really kind of, transformed or adjusted, although the market and the cannabis industry is constantly transforming and adjusting. And almost all of the shows that are out there right now were started back in 2014, 15, 16. And really at that time, it was, the events were very focused on what we call the supply side of the industry. It was light bulbs and label makers, it was ancillary technology, softwares, et cetera. And that was a really safe play because, a lot of venues weren't necessarily open to the concept of having an event that had cannabis brands and product available to it. And even now, our event, we still limit the ability for people to actually display product that's really focused on the packaging, et cetera. People in the industry understand the correct process for procuring samples from potential clients, but the events just haven't transformed at all. And when you kind of look at the quadrant of events, Hall of Flowers has done a phenomenal job of creating a brand to retail show that's very California focused, and it's a state market event. And we believe that there's an opportunity to provide a solution on a national level. And our event differs from Hall of Flowers in the sense that, Hall of Flowers, you have an opportunity to meet with other retailers in the market, possibly sell your product to. But brands have a lot of different need sets right now in the moment. And one of them is that they need to find licensed partners in other states and kind of go a capital light route of expanding their footprint. They need access to capital, which is why we allow accredited investors and vet them to make sure that they are check writers in the industry. And they need to meet with retailers from across the country to see where their products can have legs. Make no mistake, there's a tidal wave, a tsunami, we'll call it a tsunami, that's coming in of big money from alcohol and tobacco. And they are going to have huge amounts of capital and operational efficiencies that, it just isn't, in our opinion, right or just or fair that some of these brands that are incredibly innovative and inspirational and really compassionate and really understand the power and the plant medicine kind of cannabis don't have a chance to be one of the national brands in our market. We want to help them lift them up. We want to help them build a moat around their businesses so that they can survive when we do see federal legalization. And they need to be preparing now and start building those strategies now.
Great. I think that's very admirable. I'm right behind you on that, for sure.
Yeah. And listen, Todd, I mean, if we let the cannabis industry in 5 or 10 years from now, the thought leadership for something as transformational as cannabis, as powerful as cannabis can be, as restorative as cannabis can be, and far less damaging than alcohol that cannabis can be. If we let that thought leadership get usurped by alcohol or tobacco, we've lost. Same way that if we don't get people out of prison that are serving time for cannabis, we haven't created a legal industry. The same reason that we have to make sure that the people who have operated in the legacy side of this industry have a seat at our table, and that we do truly create a diverse industry. This is such a powerful moment in time for us, and we just want to be the facilitator and the conduit to really help support those ambitions.
And I'm glad to be part of it in the very beginning with you, George, for sure.
We'll look back and you'll be like, you remember when we were in New York way back then? There was only like 5 people that showed. I mean, it'll be a couple thousand people, but in 10 years from now, we're going to look back and say, it seemed like there was only 5 people.
We'll be sitting on your porch, so looking at the mountains. So question for you, how did you get into cannabis? I mean, that's really one of the questions that I have on my list here. Or, I mean, you could talk about the plant itself, but how did you even get involved in the industry? I can see that you're passionate about this. So
Destiny. Well, listen, I mean, I grew up and I remember, growing up, my friend Lyle and I were like, let's get some weed. I remember the guy's name who I bought it from. It was a bag of mostly seeds. I was 14 years old. But I liked it, and it was fun. And, then kind of next year I was working at a gas station, and a couple of the guys I worked with were moving some fairly large quantities. So it gave me an opportunity to set up my own herbal distribution business at high school. In college, just, really, I wasn't the best dealer because I wasn't really trying to make a lot of money. I just liked having a supply. I liked helping my friends out. So I always had a relationship with the plant very early on. And then, kind of moving into my adult life, I don't know if I'm an adult for that matter at this point, but, moving into my theoretical adult life, it just there wasn't access to it the same way I had it in college, and it wasn't something I did every day. And every now and then I'd bump into a friend of mine from back in the day, and we'd get high, and I'd be so stoned because I had no tolerance. It just wasn't that enjoyable experience. But kind of fast forward when this opportunity came around. First of all, what we did, my wife Kim, who runs this business with me for the tea industry, had tremendous parallels to what's happening in the cannabis industry, where you had an industry that didn't understand retail. There was a huge kind of opportunity for premium and craft product to kind of usurp market share on the shelves from the big conglomerates. Back before we started the show, you had 3 options in the tea aisle, Tetley, Lipton, and Twinings, and now you have hundreds of selections, primarily because of what we did with the World Tea Expo, and really kind of help promoting specialty and craft products in the market. And that's really how I think you support a strong base of kind of independent retailers to be successful, is creating that premium around that. The same way we've seen it in the craft beer industry. You've seen it with kind of bourbons out of Kentucky, that kind of craft spirits. Starbucks is a perfect example of kind of taking a commodity product and turning it into a premium experience.
It's great analogy. Yeah, I like to say to folks, I mean, kind of goes with what you said. It takes a green village to raise a child, and so cannabis is really still in its infancy. And I love the fact that you're passionate and that you're part of this movement, which I'm thrilled to be part of as well. So, how can people get in touch with? I'm kind of closing this maybe too short, but how can people get in touch with you or with MJ Unpacked? And if someone's interested, is there a place that we can point them? And we'll obviously put this information as well in the podcast, but is there an easy way to get in touch with you? What room are you, George? That's what we want to know. What's your phone number?
Yes, I'm in room 42. No,
don't go there.
Obviously we have our website, and I always find myself going www before I tell people our website, which just dates me. MJUnpacked.com. You can go there. There's a contact us form. You can contact us at sales at MJ Unpacked, or Wendy at at jagemedia.com, JAGE media.com. She's our director of sales. We've got a great team of people that are built around this. And going back to this, though, is like I'm a big fan of creating premium experiences and enjoying premium experiences as a consumer, premium products as a consumer. So, we just felt that the trade show industry or the cannabis industry at this point deserves a better trade show that's not just about selling another booth, selling another ticket, but really creating a defined experience. And Todd, you were at our first show and you saw some of the things we did. We created this massive kind of lounge area in the front of our show so people could sit down and have a conversation. We had bar open, we had live music, we had video games, we had foosball, we had shuffleboard games, and kind of created this kind of business lounge experience that you would find at a nice business hotel. We had soft seating throughout the entire event. We created a way for brands to showcase themselves at a fraction of the cost that they would have to spend to exhibit at most of these national shows, because they're cash strapped. And what we want to do is we want to show all of this innovation that's happening on a state level that is looking to expand. And you could also, again, it's the first time in Las Vegas that brands from across the entire country were on display under a single roof, and retailers from across the country were at a single event. So we're very proud of that, and we want to build on that. I think people like what we're doing. It's about creating a really positive experience, but also by pre-qualifying everybody that comes in, we create a much higher return on objectives, and you're not wasting time at a lot of these events with tire kickers and job seekers and light bulbs and label makers at this point.